Hi everyone, I'm Jane Trotter and welcome to Accelerando Piano. Today's tutorial is all about how to sit on your piano stool. By knowing how to sit correctly and comfortably at the piano, you're giving yourself a huge advantage as playing becomes easier, more fluent, more enjoyable and more musical. Try not to think of posture as something that is fixed or static. You don't just sit in front of the piano and play, you move. You're constantly making subtle adjustments as you respond to the music's requirements. It's not just your fingers doing this, your whole body is involved. So the more you're aware of how you're sitting at the piano, the easier it will be to play with freedom and comfort and achieve the sounds and musical effects you want. There are several aspects to sitting correctly at the piano. How much of the piano stool you're actually sitting on. The distance between your stool and the piano. How high or low your stool is in relationship to the keys. The positioning of your feet. And the height of your piano's music stand. All of these elements contribute towards allowing your arms to move freely and easily around the keyboard, improving your overall comfort, mobility, and quality of tone. They also affect your stamina. You'll be able to play for longer without getting tired or having to stop due to pain or discomfort. I've produced 2 other tutorials which cover in detail the correct height of your piano stool and the height of your music stand. So while I'll briefly cover those aspects in this tutorial, for a really in-depth exploration and explanation of these elements, please view those tutorials. I'll include their links in the description. Let's begin by talking about how much of the piano stool you should actually be sitting on. Or, to put it another way, what specific part of you should be in contact with the stool? To really get to grips with this, we need to get rather anatomical. A wonderfully generous physiotherapist let me take some photographs of this model of the spine and pelvis. Here's the complete model, just so you can see the whole skeletal system before we move in for a close-up. Now, this is the area we want to focus on. Notice the model is resting on the floor on 2 rounded shaped bones. These are called the sit bones or ischial tuberosities. The sit bones are the lowest part of the pelvis. The next area I'd like you to observe are the hip joints. Notice that the hip joints are situated above the sit bones. In standing, the weight of our torso transfers through the hip joints to the thigh bones. When we sit, we bend at the hip joints, and of course at our knees and ankles too. This means that the thigh bones move out of the way, allowing our sit bones to deliver the weight of our torso to the stool. So, in actual fact, when we're properly balanced and in correct alignment, we sit on our sit bones, not on our legs. So what does this mean for sitting on our piano stool? Here's a quote from Thomas Mark's excellent book, What Every Pianist Needs to Know About the Body, which sums it up quite nicely. With weight properly delivered to the sit bones, the legs are free to move. We can use them for support as we play in different parts of the keyboard. However, if a person sits so that weight is delivered to the back of the thigh instead of the sit bones, or thrown back toward the tailbone, movement will not be so easy. Sitting will be less comfortable, the legs will have limited mobility, the pedal may be hard to reach, and playing will be more difficult and less secure. This is the reason why we should only be sitting on the front half of the piano stool. We want to feel the connection of our sit bones with the stool. and be confident that we're able to adjust ourselves easily and efficiently into whatever position the music requires us to be in. If we sit with too much of our thighs covering the stool, this sense of connection can very quickly be lost. We become stuck, and our subsequent range of motion and freedom of movement are restricted. For example, when we have to play at the high end of the piano, we need to be able to transfer more of our body weight over to our right sit bone so that our torso and arms continue to be in relative alignment. Another important element to remember is when sitting, your knees should not be above the level of your hip joints. If they are, your pelvis will rock backwards, your body weight will be thrown backwards, and you won't have the stability and mobility needed for comfortable and secure playing. Let's now investigate the distance between your stool and the piano. How close or far away should you be sitting from the piano keyboard? This will be determined by three things. Firstly, the length of your arms. When you're sitting with your fingertips resting on the keys and your forearms are level and parallel with the floor, your arms should hang naturally and your elbows should be approximately in line with the front of your torso. You want to keep your shoulders relaxed and in a neutral position. You can see in the middle photograph, my arms are naturally poised with my shoulders in a relaxed stance. My elbows are aligned with the front of my torso. Also, I have a little bit of space between my elbows and the sides of my body. They're not pressing directly against my upper torso. The outside photos are examples of what not to do. The picture on the left shows what I irreverently describe as the T-Rex. Effectively, I only have a tiny amount of my forearms in front of my body to play with. This position can raise your shoulders, pull your shoulder blades back and tight, has the tendency to bring your arms in closer to your body, and severely restricts your arm freedom, especially when you have to play at the high or low ends of the keyboard. You definitely don't want to be doing this. No dinosaurs in front of the piano. The picture on the right shows the complete opposite. My arms are way too far in front of my body and, as a result, way too high. Consequently, my shoulders are rounded and brought forward, my chest feels constricted and held down, and I'm compressing the back of my neck. Needless to say, none of these add up to a comfortable playing scenario and will hasten a build-up of tension and fatigue. So, the first thing you want to pay attention to is the position of your arms relative to your torso. Don't pull them too far behind and don't hold them too far forward. Think about having your shoulders in a relaxed, neutral state with your forearms parallel with the floor and your elbows in line with the front of your torso. The second thing you want to take into account is the fact that you'll only be sitting on the front half of the piano stool. So you don't want to have it in a position where all of your thighs are in contact with the stool. If this is the case, you'll need to edge it back until only the front half is being used. The third consideration is the angle of your right leg below the knee when you're using the sustaining pedal. If you're sitting too close and your leg is too straight, pedaling can become extremely uncomfortable and your shin will get really sore. I have an in-depth tutorial on using the sustaining pedal called Legato Pedaling. Absolutely everything you'll need to know. It includes the correct way to position and use your foot. So make sure you check that out if you're unsure and would like further clarification. So, Those are the main considerations when it comes to positioning your stool in front of the piano. Step 1. Focus on ensuring your arm positioning is correct. Step 2. Get a feel for the pedal, assuming, of course, your legs are long enough to reach. I'm thinking of young adult and adult students here. Even if you're in the early stages of playing and aren't using the pedal yet, it will help in the long run to be seated at the correct distance for when you do start to use it. And step 3, place the piano stool so you are seated on the front half while maintaining your correct arm position. Another crucial element of sitting correctly at the piano is making sure your piano stool is at the correct height. Now, I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail here because I have a whole other tutorial devoted specifically to this topic. I would strongly recommend watching Sitting Pretty, Is Your Piano Stool the Right Height? And watch that in tandem with this tutorial. That way you'll get a thorough and comprehensive overview and lots of tips to help you out. To briefly summarise, the height of your piano stool should allow your forearms to be level and parallel with the floor, which was a key point I highlighted earlier on in this tutorial. And as a really useful guide, the tip of your elbow should be in line with the top of the white keys. Another important factor in comfortable and stable sitting, but one which tends to take a back seat, if you'll excuse the pun, is what to do with our legs and feet while we're playing. Let's use my pedal cam to take a look. To maintain balance and stability, you want to have both feet on the floor with your heels in contact with the floor. Your points of contact, your feet in other words, work in conjunction with your sit bones to give you a solid postural foundation. So, you don't want to have your ankles crossed, either in front of you or under the seat. And try to avoid lifting your heels off the ground and gripping with your toes. Definitely don't sit with your legs crossed. Obviously, when you need to use the sustaining pedal, you'll move your right foot into position. Remember, I have a tutorial on pedaling, which includes all of the do's and don'ts when it comes to pedal technique. Now, there will be circumstances when you'll need to move your feet out of a relatively central position. If you have to play at the outer extremities of the instrument and you're shifting your body weight more towards one side, your foot on the opposite side will often need to move to counterbalance the action. For example, watch what happens if I have to play up high in the treble. As my body weight transfers across to my right sit bone, my left leg moves out in response to help keep me balanced. When I resume playing in the middle register, I can bring my leg back in again. It's really important for younger students whose feet can't reach the floor to have a step stool which they can place their feet on to help maintain a comfortable and balanced position on the seat. Younger students in general aren't using the pedal, so this doesn't hamper that aspect of their playing. It's much more important to ensure that their feet are not left dangling in the air without any support. There are a couple of options. You could use a children's step stool. They're light and easily maneuverable, but also quite sturdy. Another option is an exercise step. These have the added advantage that you can adjust their height by adding or subtracting a platform. These are excellent for when children grow and the footstool needs to be slightly lower. There are two important things to remember. Firstly, the step should be flat and level. And secondly, make sure that the step is not so high that a child's knees are above the level of their hip joints. Finally, I'd briefly like to mention the importance of having your music at the right height. This definitely contributes towards your comfort in sitting and reducing the amount of tension while playing, particularly in your neck. Take a look at Practising, a pain in the neck. Your piano's music stand could be too low. I've got some tips for various ways you can raise up your music if you need to. There are several quick and easy ways to accomplish this, so it's definitely worth doing. That was quite an in-depth look into the many factors which play a part in sitting comfortably at the piano. The areas I've covered all contribute towards helping your awareness and understanding of how you can move more freely and effortlessly, maintain good balance and posture, and avoid unnecessary tension. The important word in that sentence was move. Remember, posture is not something that is fixed or static. As you play, you're constantly making subtle adjustments depending on the music's requirements, and your whole body is involved, not just your fingers. Our goal should be to play with ease and comfort. You'll be well on the way to achieving this with some thoughtful attention and awareness of how you're sitting at the piano.